working with people on different sectors in society and explaining Islam to them.
A person from a different faith, invite them to break their fast.
Understand the landscape of society.
If someone wants to try to do something, then they can, for sake of dawah, for sake of humanity.
When you sit down with somebody and you want to hear about who they are sincerely, that breaks down barriers.
I would like to invite brothers from IDC Northeast to come and showcase their organization. Please welcome the brothers from IDC Northeast.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. First of all, I'd like to say I'm really honored and humbled to have the opportunity to present what our organization does as IDC, the Islamic Diversity Center. And as the brother mentioned before, this organization has been set up in 2002. And the reason we set this organization up was because it gave us an outlet as Muslims to clarify and challenge the stereotypes that people had about Islam and remove those misconceptions. And that is a massive thing that needs to be done within our communities and within our societies. And so IDC itself has actually been, our whole purpose is to, or our vision is to ensure that every sector of society hears the message about Islam. Whether that's the public sector or whether that's the private sector. Whether that's people who are professionals or just the layman on the street. And so we've broken up our organization, our departments are three. And those departments are, first of all, we have Islamic awareness, which is traditional dawah, as it were. You know, those Islamic awareness stalls that you have, the dawah stall. But again, as I said, our purpose, our vision is to hit every sector in society. So Islamic awareness is not just having a dawah stall on a Saturday afternoon, but that includes us going into schools. It includes us going and working with professionals and giving them an actual Islam course. It includes working with people on different sectors in society and explaining Islam to them. The other section is the social initiatives, which is, I'm going to talk a little bit about this in detail, so I'll skip that one for now. And the last one is our new Muslim support. So these three areas, brothers and sisters, is how we feel the holistic dawah or the model for IDC works. When I was looking and I was thinking about this idea of social initiatives, what is it that I could, or how could I summarize what I mean by social initiatives? And it really comes with two words, and that is be good. Be good. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us in the Quran, وَأَحْسِنُوا إِنَّ اللَّهَ يُحِبُّ الْمُحْسِنِينَ. Allah says, and do good. Indeed, Allah loves those who do good. So when we talk about social initiatives, we're talking about these acts or these campaigns or these programs where you're benefiting society. You're positively contributing to society. And these are some of the things that we're talking about. Helping those who need it. Going into schools. Going into meeting different people. Showing them kindness. Working with organizations and charities. Helping and feeding the homeless. These are all different things. Helping the elderly. These are all different methods on how we can positively contribute to society. And I really want to take a bit of time for everyone to kind of understand or reevaluate what we mean by this phrase, social initiatives. And we can kind of liken it to, oh, that's not worked. So you've messed up my slides, brother. We can liken it to social corporate responsibility, which is where organizations go out there and they work with various, they do social activities in order to gain or raise the profile of their organization. And a lot of people say that these are publicity stunts. Whereas we're not saying that we do these things for publicity. Because we've got to really go back to what's our objective. Ultimately, what's our objective for doing these social initiatives? What's our reason or what's our purpose and what's our aim for doing these things? We need to reevaluate why we're doing these things. If it's to gain publicity or because you want likes on Facebook, that's not the reason why we do it. Ultimately, brothers and sisters, We do it because Allah loves and has commanded us to benefit society. Allah has commanded us to be people who positively benefit society. And so, forget corporate social responsibility. We all should have Muslim social responsibility. Every single one of us has a Muslim social responsibility. We're all responsible for the society that we live in. And really, I'm echoing what everyone else has already said. All of our guest speakers, all of our brothers and sisters already spoke. This is what everyone's saying, is that we as Muslims, we need to be doing good in society. And really from that, if we have that mentality that we're doing it for the sake of Allah, we're doing it because Allah has commanded us to do these things, what's the fruits of our labor? Brothers and sisters, it raises the profiles of the Muslims. It wins the hearts and minds of the people. It forges stronger relationships with non-Muslims. It increases our credibility and longevity of the organization. And brothers and sisters, it's important to know that these are not one-off projects that we should be doing. These are projects that we should be continuously doing throughout the year. We're not looking for short-term gains, but it's a long-term. And these things have a knock-on effect with a lot of our events that we've planned. As part of our Islamic awareness, we organize various events. And some of those events are on hot topics, such as sexual grooming, such as the face of extremism, such as unveiling the veil and the hijab and the niqab. But what it's allowed us to do, brothers and sisters, by doing those activities, it's raised our profile, and non-Muslims have seen us, and they can see we're a credible source. And when we do these events, they actually attend our events. And it gives us a voice. Going back to our social initiatives, brothers and sisters, one of our flagship projects in 2014 was the Elderly Care Project. This is where we went and we contacted local elderly homes and centers. And what we did with them was, it was during the winter time, and we asked them, is it possible for us to come into your centers and donate clothes for the elderly? We know it's a time where they're cold and it's difficult for them during the winter months. Is it possible that we can do that? They allowed us to do it, and we mobilized the masjids. We mobilized the Muslims in the community to donate and give so we could buy those clothes. And from that event that we did, this Keeping the Warm campaign, from that event we had continuous visits throughout the year with these elderly care homes. And just to give you a little bit of feedback, the feedback of the impact, and this is an example of how social initiatives can work. This is an example of how dawah is not just you standing on a stall. This is dawah in action, brothers and sisters. This is where non-Muslims are telling us, this is a lesson. It's going to make them, they're not going to be frightened to make the first move and contact and speak to new Muslims, or speak to Muslims. They've never seen anyone do anything like this. They even told us that the British people don't do things like this. They were shocked and they were stunned that Muslims would go out their way to do this kind of activity. Again, people are saying that we've heard that people can mix of different communities and different faiths. And this is an action that proves it can be done. Non-Muslims, elderlies were telling us this. Elderly ladies are telling us, this proves that it's possible to mix with different communities and people of different faiths. And one of the elderly gentlemen, he said, someone's got to help the elderly. If you don't, I honestly don't think, or can't see anyone else doing it. That's a powerful message, brothers and sisters, that's a powerful message that the elderly are saying, if we don't do it, if we don't go out there doing it, they can't see anyone else doing it. So to wrap up, brothers and sisters, coming back to this slide of being good or doing good, we look at the example of the Prophet ﷺ, and we want to be like, and we want to emulate his example. And his example, you look at the story of when he first received revelation, and he's in the cave, and he came home to his wife, and he told his wife, Khadija radiallahu anha, to cover him. And he was scared. And he his wife Khadija radiallahu anha said to him, I swear by Allah that Allah will never leave you, because you keep the family ties. You're truthful in speech, and you carry the burdens of the weak. You're generous to your guests, and you help those who need it. And so, brothers and sisters, I don't believe we're going to win the people's hearts and the minds through debates, but rather through kindness, compassion, mercy. These are the characteristics that epitomize the Prophet ﷺ. And I want to leave you with this point. One of the greatest reforms of the Prophet ﷺ was that he brought the rights and treatment of the poor and the needy. Before Islam, the needy was seen as something that they were ignored. They were seen as something that didn't matter. They will be looked down upon. And unfortunately, that's what exists in society today. Yet, we know that with the coming of the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ, all of that has changed. And the Muslims are now obliged to look after the poor. And we're required to spend our wealth on those who need it the most. And that, brothers and sisters, is the reform that I want to, and we want to, as IDC, the Islamic Diversity Center, we want to establish today for all Muslims. Wa jazakumullahu khairan. Assalamu alaikum.
So this organization is called IQRA. I'm sure all of you are familiar with them. They started up in 2009 by Abdul Rahim Green, Yusuf Chambers, and Hamza Zortis. We have Salahuddin Patel, who is an experienced da'i, who's been in the dawah scene for many years now, and is also a revert as well. So he's going to come and speak about his organization and what they do exactly, and give us a few words. So I'd like to welcome Salahuddin Patel from IQRA onto the stage.
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Assalamu alaikum. MashaAllah, it's been an amazing event. I want to thank the organizers for inviting these amazing organizations that are out there, amazing initiatives that you're doing. And I just want to say, when you look at the dawah, because I work in, Mission Dawah, One Reason, and one of the things that we do is we look at the dawah not just nationally, but also globally. And one of the things that we're finding is the UK is the leaders when it comes to the dawah, mashallah. So many amazing initiatives, so many amazing sort of drives are coming out of the UK, which is being replicated not just nationally, but globally. So jazakallah khairan for, all your hard efforts. So I'm just going to briefly speak about IQRA. It was launched in 2009, and the idea behind IQRA was to launch a sort of mass movement when it comes to the dawah. So essentially move away from the sort of personality-driven dawah, where you'd have like big personality speakers talking about dawah, and essentially training the du'at to go out there and convey the message of Islam to everyday people, and just get, everyday Muslims involved in the dawah. So we launched in 2009. We've done a load of events. One of the sort of main events is called Call of Duty, and within the Call of Duty you have a system called the Go Rap. Basically, it just goes through a very simple blueprint which enables you to convey the message of Islam, the essentials essentially. God's existence, oneness, revelation, and prophethood. And as a result of that, we've gone to massages up and down the country. We've set up dawah teams, and people have gone out there, inspired to convey the message of Islam. And been doing that since sort of 2011, late 2011 onwards. And yes, at the beginning there was a lot of buzz, there was a lot of excitement. And one of the brothers, he gave me an analogy, it was like a plane. When you have a plane, at the beginning when it's on the runway, it's taking off, there's a lot of energy. And there was a lot of buzz, so the dawah was taking off. But now, we're in the air, we're in mid-flight, and people are just kind of just waiting, right, for the sort of the journey. So it's got a bit stale, it's got a bit boring. And so as a result, when it comes to the dawah, we've come to a stage now where, yes, we should need to sort of rethink the dawah. We need to come up with new initiatives. Because, of course, we need to understand the environment that we're living in. We're living in times where there's a lot of misconceptions about Islam. Islam is being attacked. People don't understand what Islam is, and there's a lot of fear. And we can't blame the public for fearing, what they see in the media. But it's our duty to go out there and clear these misconceptions. So we've done a couple of events, global events. We did we started in 2012. We did the Olympics Dawah, which was an amazing event. A lot of people got involved. Last year we did What's Your Goal? And this was the first time we did like a global initiative where we did a sort of global Dawah Day. And this year, inshallah, we've got a new campaign which is called Who Do You Love? And basically that's centered around, there's a lot of ignorance when it comes to the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Because when we look at people, personalities in history, a lot of people know about other people such as, Martin Luther King or Jesus. But when it comes to the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, there's a lot of misinformation, let's say. They don't even know who the Prophet is. And, at the end of the day, it's our duty to convey the message. So, yeah, we've reached the stage now that basically, is street dawah enough? Is that the best way to convey the message of Islam? And we need to diversify. And, we've seen so many organizations here present different methods of going out there and presenting a sort of positive message of Islam. Because before people can accept what we're selling, essentially who we are, we need to warm their hearts. And in order to do that, we need to get involved in community work. One time I had a discussion with Yusha Evans, and he was telling me, look, one of the problems we have with street dawah is, he said, it's all good and well going out there and telling people, look, this is the best way of life, this is the truth. But then the people will turn around and say, okay, if that's really the case, what have you done for our community? What have you done? Because where are the fruits of this labor? Where are the fruits of what you're talking about? So yes, these initiatives, that the Myriad Foundation do, IDC do, and all the organizations here, this is all needed. Our duty is to be good Muslims. And by being good Muslims, people will then be warm towards the message of Islam, inshallah. So, we need to present a positive image of Islam to the community, and we should support these great initiatives. And we at IQRA, we've started to adopt some of these great initiatives. We didn't, start these initiatives. We've adopted them from people like, Sohail from IDC and from, the Myriad Foundation. And we've done certain events such as giving blood. We've done, recently we did a campaign, environmental campaign called Islam is Green. So we went out, there was a big march in London. We were handing out leaflets and we were essentially giving the Islamic perspective when it comes to the environment. And, it is our duty that we need to do this. This is, at the end of the day, a lot of us here are second generation, first generation, or third generation Muslims. We're born here. So these are our people. This is our land, and we need to look after the people. We need to get involved with these issues that affect all of us. Okay? We've also done other campaigns such as the Neighbours campaign. We did snow patrol, where when it was snowing, we cleared the front driveways of non-Muslims, and at the same time, we tried to convey the message of Islam to them. So we've done these campaigns where we have a campaign called Against Racism, Against Hatred. So, it was, what was interesting about these campaigns, because I've gone out there and done it, is the people that are out there, the non-Muslims, they're kind of shocked when we see us involved in these campaigns because they don't expect it. Because they're fed a certain narrative in the media, they're like, wow, Islam has something to say positive about the environment, or Islam has something positive to say about racism. We want to hear about it. We want you to get involved. And it's fantastic because the best way to break those misconceptions is to actually engage with someone, right? And those misconceptions will go. So yes, it's all about winning the hearts and winning the minds. And, it softens the heart so they are more open. So it's fantastic. This is the first time I think we've done something like this, a Dawah Ijtima. We've got all the Dawah organizations together. We're thinking of new initiatives. We're thinking about rethinking the Dawah. But I would like to add something, to what has been said here. And I would say, look, it's all good that we're doing these initiatives and helping the community, but we have to remember our primary goal when it comes to Dawah. The primary goal is obviously calling people to the message of Tawheed. This is essentially what Dawah is, right? And if you do a holistic study of the Quran and the Sunnah, this is undeniable. that this is what the Prophet ﷺ, he did. When he helped the people, he called them to Tawheed. You know, the prophets of the past, this is what they did. They called people to the message of Tawheed. So my sort of message to you guys here is that, you know, by doing this good work, yes, we are enhancing the dawah, and this is what we need to do. But we mustn't forget our duty at the same time, that, you know, we should never use this sort of work that we're doing, this great, you know, initiative, this great humanitarian work, and use it as a means to sort of hide behind and make an excuse for our sort of inferiority complex. Meaning that, you know, we're sort of afraid that we're Muslims, let's do some good work, so, you know, we appease the people. When we're talking about dawah, we're talking about calling people to Islam. So it goes hand in hand, being good and also at the same time calling people to Islam. And so, you know, when we do, you know, sort of good deeds such as this, charity, we must never sort of forget this, you know, forget the call. And I just want to end on just like my own experience. And like, I wasn't born as a Muslim, like the brother said. Someone gave me dawah and I accepted Islam, alhamdulillah, by the qadr of Allah, by the permission of Allah. And if you look, you know, I always had this inclination towards Allah. I always had what's known in Islam as the fitrah, this natural inclination that there must be a cause to our existence, there must be a purpose. But when it came to Hinduism, it didn't make any sense that, you know, our creator is not a human being that's made like you know, an idol. This is not our creator. I had this natural inclination. And growing up, I grew up in London. You know, it's an ethnic sort of mix, people of different backgrounds, people of different ethnicities, people of different religions. And I was there. A lot of my friends were Muslim, and they were good people. And they did good things. And, you know, the point I'm trying to make is, yes, they did good things and they were good people, but it wasn't until someone gave me the message of Tawheed, that's when I accepted it. Yes, the people that gave me the message, I looked up to them like they were good people, they had good character. You know, let me look into what they were saying. So my sort of conclusion when it comes to, you know, what I'm trying to say is, look, it goes hand in hand, yeah? It's all good and well doing good initiatives, helping, raising the profile of Muslims, doing good. But if you speak to any sort of revert to Islam, you speak to them, they'll tell you, what was it? What was it? What was the thing that made you accept Islam? And I'm telling you, most of the times it is the message of Tawheed, which is to worship Allah alone. So, Jazakallah khairan, I just wanted to share that with you. And I just want to end with this ayah, which is an English translation of the Quran. And it says, "And who is better in speech than one who calls to Allah and does good deeds and says, I am of the Muslims." Jazakallah khairan. Assalamu alaikum.